We've got a top-of-the-table match for you to kick off day number 2 here this week. We've got DawN versus Shaxy coming right up. Both players being 4-0 so far in their division, so this is going to decide who gets that first place spot for this week, or at least who is starting on that. There is a chance it could even up, depending on how some other matchups go. But let's take a look at the decks already and just see what we have cooking. We've got DawN's Rogue is going to be going up against Shaxy's Hunter, but for now, just to outline with this new style of Rogue, the Thief Rogue, or Burgle Rogue, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like we've seen several different ways to build Rogue post-nerf. Some people still believe Raiding Party is a great card, even with Preparation nerfed and Raiding itself being nerfed, but this Burgle Rogue cuts that package and instead favors the power of cards like Vendetta, and Underbelly Fence, I think, is in one of these sideboards to make, to take full advantage of cards like Henge Clan Burglar and Blink Fox, which can give you both value and tempo, because you are still just Rogue. You still have the highest tempo hero power in the game. And from DawN and Flurry, we're seeing this Burgle Rogue version, whereas other players in APAC, such as Glory, are bringing the Tempo Rogue, which doesn't have the Burgle package and instead has more weapon synergy. You've got the deck hands, you've got double Waggle Pick and double Deadly Poison.
Yeah, and for this list specifically, when I've seen it played at least, I feel like it's very difficult to play in a lot of instances. We saw a lot of Van Cleef getting involved yesterday, but in general, I feel like it's difficult because there's some late game you can go for with Togwaggle, the Sharks, and obviously tons of doubled up Battle Cries and Lackeys. But then also we've seen certain plays that just go, actually, I'm just going to try and kill you, and maybe I generate some more aggressive cards, and there are Life Drinkers in there to push some damage. Henge Clan Burglar can sometimes push some as well, and even an early Blink Fox. So I feel like the decision making is what really decides if this deck's going to get work done or not. If you decide to, okay, now I'm going to go aggro and just play really aggressive and try and end the game, if that decision or not is made at the wrong time, then the deck, I feel, falls over a little bit. And having the knowledge of when to sort of put the foot on the gas is very, very important with this list. Particularly
against Hunter, I feel like, although almost all the versions of Rogues are quite favored against Hunter, I feel like the Burgle Rogue might have a bit of a harder time, simply because for DawN's list, at least, he's only running the one Waggle Pick and none of the weapon synergy, and the price of building Beast Hunter means you cannot run Oozes because they're not beasts and they would ruin your Master's Call. So Hunters just cannot deal with a Waggle Pick hitting you over 2 turns. And when you have 2 Waggle Picks and Deadly Poisons, that only compounds the problem. So Hunter might feel a little bit happier to see less of that weapon stuff.
Yeah, Vendetta is always a scary card though, because that can really just mess with Hunter a little bit. But let's check out, speaking of Hunter, let's have a look at Shaxy's list and see what he is bringing to the table. The players do have to queue these primary decks game number 1. That's why we're not showing you the secondary or tertiary yet, because they don't have a choice. They have to queue these. So Shaxy's list, only 1 Unleash the Beast. But what's really sticking out for you in terms of the choices here? Anything crazy?
Yeah, the primary is not running Vicious Scalehide. That is a huge deal, especially against Rogue, because one of the ways Hunter can stabilize against Rogue just going face, even if they don't develop minions, is to have Scalehide Dire Frenzy. But instead, Shaxy's choosing to run the double Direwolf Alpha in the place of the Vicious Scalehides, which are instead waiting in the secondary deck, which I assume Shaxy should queue every single time against Rogue, because he's also got double Rat Trap in there for the Rogue matchup. So I think this Hunter is quite in a bad position against Rogue for at least the first game, but maybe Shaxy can get there once he moves to his secondary.
Yeah, I will say I've seen some Hunters very recently, pretty much this morning / yesterday, running this slightly more aggressive package, and you actually end up going faster in the mirror, so you just kill them before Zul'jin even becomes a huge deal. So Shaxy's kind of gone halfway here. I do think the Direwolf Alphas are pretty good of just applying more pressure. You just have to really try and dodge those backstab and SIs just to be able to actually cash in on these minions that he's chosen to use instead of, say, the Scale Hides, which are much more on-demand sort of effective, as opposed to needing the setup for a Direwolf Alpha.
Yeah, I do think Shaxy did not expect to hit Rogue too likely, because then you just wouldn't have 0 Scale Hide in your primary, I think. I mean, almost everybody, with the very choice to bring Paladin and Hunter, you're probably expecting more mages. And so it's a bit tough for Shaxy that he queued into a Rogue, but at least he did have that sideboard, which gives him a bit of a better shot.
Yeah, and funnily enough, Shaxy is actually going to be playing Tyler in his second match tomorrow, which means his Hunter he queued this week effectively into a rogue and then into another hunter. So the true test is going to be if you can get this win versus the rogue. It's a huge help, because whenever you play a mirror match, even though it's not card for card mirror, there is a certain element of, like we saw yesterday, well, sometimes one hunter just draws better than the other and there's not a lot you can do, and that's the nature of mirror matches. There are openings for good plays, but sometimes you are a bit restricted. But because in mirror matches his second match of the week, it means that I think Shaxy really needs to get this rogue win here, or this win against rogue, should I say, as we go in to game number 1. There's a Master's Core in hand, so it looks good for Shaxy. That is, like I said, my base level advice for Hunter. If you see a Master's Core in your opening hand, just keep it. It's always going to be good.
Yeah, and the good thing about this is that, honestly, whenever I queue against Rogue and I have the coin, even though I'm a class that doesn't necessarily benefit too much off of the coin, I'm just happy that the Rogue does not have it, because they can't go coin Miscreant. And Shaxy, he has this perfect 1 into coin 3 into 3 curve, which is very, very useful for him.
And the good thing as well, outside of exactly backstab, because prep isn't played in the lists, or at least in the main lists anywhere near as often now, it's less likely, or they have less answers to early minions, because they can't say prep evis play something. So they actually end up having to just rely on, say, backstabs to get the job done, and that is a triple deadly shot.
Oh my goodness.
So Shaxy can kill a Van Cleef, is what he's happy about right now, I guess.
And 2 sharks, even if they're stealthed. So for Shaxy here, he's already thinking about whether he should go for the high tempo play of coin Animal Companion. And of course, on paper, this looks like the best thing, because the only bad outcome for you is if you get Huffer and your opponent has exactly backstab and then a card that benefits off of the combo, which would have happened here. But of course, the Huffer is only a 1 in 3, so I like the Animal Companion before the Master's Call and try to make the Rogue play on the back foot for at least the beginning of the game.
Now DawN has a couple of choices. If I'm honest, I wouldn't even mind. Oh, okay. I actually didn't see this choice come in. Oh, he can actually kill this now. He got the Goblin Lackey, which means he can give his Cable Rat +1 attack and rush, and then use the backstab first to of course, kill the Misha. But I was wondering if he was actually just going to backstab and play Miscreant anyway, and then he can... because you know that Shaxy cannot follow up with a Dire Frenzy this turn because he coined the 3-drop, it means that the Misha's not gaining any health, so you can kill it next turn, and it's unlikely that you won't be able to kill it.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty complicated turn, and I'm surprised that DawN went for it so quickly. I guess he was just thinking that 2 out of the 3 Lackey outcomes give him a pretty easy way to clear. But yeah, now he's used those cheap spells and the cheap minion, and now these combo cards are looking a bit clunky. But again, this is Hunter, so you can just equip Waggle Pick and be done with it.
That's true. It is tough though, because can DawN somehow set up some kind of big cleave next turn with the Waggle Pick Shadow Step? He is going to equip it. He's not going to swing it though. I do like the not swing, because I think it's asking a lot to, one, just randomly swing face, but also just to get some usage out of the Shadow Step effect of the Death Rattle. So I think because the value you can get from that second swing isn't guaranteed, it's not worth doing it, right?
And I do think that if you are looking to step a minion, I feel like it would be the Miscreant in this situation, because Shaxy does have the double deadly in the primary, and I think DawN's hand is not the type of hand where you can go all in on an Edwin. I feel like why he hesitated on the Waggle Pick is now the Hunter can go for this type of play where they kind of put a couple small minions on the board, which you don't feel great about sinking 4 damage into. But he does have this Ziliax at least to make things a little bit more convenient.
Yeah, and it's definitely strange as well. Something that maybe players who haven't really touched Hunter for a while may have to get out of their minds. It's something Tyler commented on yesterday, is the archetype isn't really Smork anymore. You might be thinking, oh, Shaxy's done 1 damage all game. You know, he's already on turn 4, and he's not really doing much, and this board gets cleaned up by Ziliax. It's like, well, actually, Hunter can actually go pretty late a lot of the time, so this isn't, although it's a bit frustrating, he would like to have done more damage, it's definitely not the end of the world.
Looking at it again, I kind of prefer the Eviscerate Miscreant play now, just to make sure that you get this combo off the Miscreant. You can clear the board even though it involves using the 4 attack Waggle Pick on something small. DawN is deciding to go for this instead though.
Could instead just develop a minion, but developing a single minion into the Waggle pick never feels too great. Maybe this turn just becomes a marked shot and then just see what DawN does.
Yeah, I mean, the other play, I guess, is to go for the Direwolf Lynx and the Headhunter's Hatchet, and I prefer keeping the 2 minions.
Yes, yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
If you equip the Hatchet, you swing it, right? Because you may as well take the damage. You're not too fearful, especially after seeing that DawN only runs 1 Waggle pick, and one swing was used to clear a minion. So there's none of this, as you mentioned in some of the other lists. There's none of this stacking damage from the weapon or multiple weapons. It's just the 1 Waggle pick.
What's strange about this for Shaxy that his hand is very much spelling control, and it might feel bad to use your only proactive cards, the minions, this way, and then suddenly all of your hand is responsive, and you're hoping that DawN, develops minions instead of trying to go for full value. So maybe just going for this halfway play, keep the Direwolf, and then just fit in the hero power is fine. I wouldn't have hated the Direwolf because it probably gets eaten by the Waggle pick, in which case the Waggle pick is not going face, and your hand does support this control plan.
Right. It's why I was leaning towards Mark Shot. You have a lot of removal with those deadly shots, and maybe the Discovered Hunter spells are actually feel fairly decent. They normally get a decent job done, or at least one of them does. And I feel like that was just a decent way to spend a lot of mana on a turn that removed Ziliax. And yeah, he probably doesn't end up playing a minion that turn, but still, I think it was okay. And now DawN, he's going to eviscerate Miscreant.
Yeah, I like this because he can guaranteed step the Miscreant as well with the Waggle pick going face. I think it's a worthy investment. Would you value 2 lackeys more than your Waggle pick charge?
I think.
Wow,
Okay.
the eviscerate.
Where's it going to go?
Does this get comboed because you play? Oh, it does. That's how the interaction works. So even if the
Combo works.
right, even if the original played card did not combo, the Vargoth eviscerate does, and it hit the best target because DawN is a Rogue Whisperer.
This weapon coming in useful though. Gonna mean that there's a deadly shot number 1. And I believe, was it the middle one? Was his generated one? I think he had one in hand.
Ooh.
The middle one was his generated one, and the one on the right was his second one in deck.
I think so. But now DawN has this potential to get 3 Tog activations if he wants to, and if the Waggle pick hits the 50-50, of course. Definitely thinking you take the 1. His hand's looking pretty light.
You could just pause for a second and work out after seeing a deadly shot how likely it is that minions do stick going forward. So it's not, I don't think it's a snap wand pick, but I do think overall wand will just do the most over the course of the game.
Yeah, it's just so much incentive for it because the hand is light, because you have Edwin, and
you could play a 3-mana 6/6 and turn this light hand into a hand of legendaries.
I do wonder if DawN just goes for... Okay, so I was thinking there's 2 things he could do, which is either like Waggle pick, take the 50-50, and then that feels pretty bad, I think, if the Kobold goes back to your hand, because then you don't want to just step your Tog and have no board development and not have a weapon, I think. But going for it this way means that he gets to keep the weapon, he guarantees the Tog is in hand, and he still has responses on top of more Tog value, but he will not have a lackey right now.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, isn't it? Is that the Shadow Step was used on Togwaggle, but without a guaranteed lackey. Yes, there's 3 mana, draw 3 cards, that's great, but there's 1 Miscreant and 1 Cable Rat already used. So it's not super consistent that he actually does draw a lackey soon.
Yeah. In any case, a wand into Edwin turn always seems pretty decent, and the Thunder Rhino is not the worst sap target in the world just because it's so expensive to play. Oh. Okay, 2 cards discounted. So we probably start with the Blink Fox. It can activate the Vendetta, and you can use the Waggle pick to step the Blink Fox, replay it, and still fit in the Edwin.
I wonder if you actually just want to backstab instead. Because I think DawN wants to probably swing this weapon face, right?
Yes, I do like
So
that.
pushing the damage is very nice. So yeah, I think the backstab of Vendetta can be used, or even a sap. I think sapping this is fine. One of the benefits of DawN's list is double sap in the core list, as you can see in his hand, which is so insane for tempo gain that there was a while, obviously not too long ago, that rogues were not really running any saps, but it's because they had some of the powerful tools with raiding party and prep. But now without those, the saps are pretty powerful again.
Speaking of pretty powerful, this I don't know, what is it, 12, 12, 14, 14?
12? Yeah,
Okay.
12.
Hey, my first instinct was great. I was legitimately not counting. Pretty proud of myself, but unfortunately for DawN, Shaxy has the guaranteed answer, and we will see very soon which deadly shot was the one that was created.
I really like Secret Plan here. Can play it this turn anyway. I doubt Shaxy just wants to play a Spring Paw this turn. Secret Plan allows Shaxy to get a little bit more control over these secrets because Snake Trap doesn't really stop or interrupt what DawN now seemingly wants to do, which is just kill Shaxy.
Yeah.
So a Secret Plan into, say, even Explosive Trap, Freezing Trap, all of these things are way, way, way better. Even a Rat Trap is actually better than Snakes.
I definitely agree. Rat Trap, probably one of the top picks for him.
Oh.
The misdirection could
We know
possibly,
it would be sick,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you can even risk it.
Well, the thing is, misdirection can get procced by just the dagger, right?
Sure.
So I feel like you're always deadly shotting the admin. Now this is quite awkward for DawN because he does not have Lackey Generation.
This is why the Shadow Step kind of confused me a little bit.
You could have gone for the quad hunting Mastiffs play, but that gets super punished by Unleash.
Right.
The Hounds, not the Beast. In a way that Shaxy just stabilizes from here. I mean,
Very
seemed
much
like,
so.
yeah.
There's still another deadly shot. The MD is going to be a frustration at worst for DawN. And then also, there is just a decent chunk of damage once. Well, for a start, there's 6 power on board, 7 with the hero power. There's a kill command for an extra 5. There's Unleash the Hounds if DawN ever goes wide on the board.
DawN is sitting on 7 damage from hand. I wonder if he's just gonna play a tempo tog waggle. Probably not, because he knows the twin spell is there for an easy answer. But then at least
Is that okay though?
Yeah, it's taking 6 mana out of your opponent's turn. His hand is looking like it needs to smork rather than wait for Lackey Generation. And he is running 3 more of those cards though. He's got double Evil Cable Rat and the second Miscreant in the list.
He already used 1 though, right?
Yes, so like 3 out of 14.
No, he used 1 Miscreant, 1 Cable Rat.
Oh, he's
So
used a Cable Rat. Yeah, okay.
so he's got-
So yeah, it's only 1 in 7 to draw more Lackey Generation off the top.
And now though as well, Shaxy moving up to 10 mana next turn means any Zul'jin, well, a Zul'jin not draw, not any draw. There's only a 1 of. So a Zul'jin draw can really change things as well because secrets have been played now.
Right.
There's been a multitude of deadly shots. There's been 2 in the tank as well. So
Yeah, the Zul'jin is an insane swing.
I wouldn't even mind tracking into Zul'jin.
Or just Hyenas with the deadly shot. He may or may not, I mean with the Unleash the Hounds, he may or may not expect a sap by this point because DawN's had these dead cards for quite a while. But even so, at least the Hyena gets some sort of answer from DawN's hand.
Funny enough, I wondered if a Dire Frenzy was better.
I feel like he wants the Zul'jin.
Right, so it just puts too many cards in. the
Right.
deck.
I don't think that this is a hand that looks like it can push for counter lethal with some kind of Dire Frenzy play. Looks like Shaxy just needs to survive till he gets his Zul'jin. And exactly Zul'jin, because he's not running the Scale Hides. From DawN's perspective, I think he has eliminated all the secret possibilities except MD and Explosive Trap. So in those cases, both of them can be procced by his dagger, and now he's just looking at the hand like, okay, this Abyss is going face. Just needs to get the Leroy, and then he just gets there. Oh.
Speaking of which,
Well, the MD means this turn is not lethal, because the dagger will hit something else. Wait, does it proc if there are no other targets? So if you like double sap?
no, but then the minion procs. the minion proxy, right? So dagger doesn't proc MD if there's
Oh,
nothing
and
else
then
on
it
the
just-
board,
oh,
but
okay,
then
okay, yeah.
you'll swing with the minion gets procced because
Right.
your face is on the board.
Right, and he
But you
wouldn't.
can't hit yourself with the MD. Yeah.
Okay, and he wouldn't have had the mana to do that turn anyway. I
Right.
think without the dagger, it would have cost 11 mana. But just going about it this way means that I think he's nearly guaranteed to get there, barring Zul'jin or a taunt. Oh my goodness!
There we go.
So he goes up to 16, summons a couple wyverns, draws some cards. He played
Mark
Companion, he could get Misha,
potentially,
yeah.
yeah, Companions, and then also Mark Shot one of his minions, depending on
Yeah.
ordering.
Yeah.
If Zul'jin Mark Shot first, then it does nothing, but could draw an additional spell from that.
Yeah.
And because most of the minions survive the Mark Shot anyway, I don't think Shaxy is going to be too upset with the trade-off of less health on a minion, but gaining a spell.
Yeah. And it seems like just the one taunt won't be relevant because DawN does have the second sap. But really the 5 health is crucial because
Right.
DawN has used the Shadow Step, he has used the other Eviscerate, and so his burst is very limited now.
And I think Shaxy has to know that Zul'jin is the only play. He is going to drop it down, but with DawN floating 8 mana and he just daggered up previous turn, you have to be afraid. You know one of those cards is Togwaggle, but you have to be afraid of the others in terms of potential lethal. We dodged hitting the Misha, which is nice.
Sorry, I've got a cough. Yeah, the Misha is semi-relevant because if there are 2 Mishas, that's insane because there's only 1 sap. But just the 1 Misha, I think DawN shouldn't care about.
Well, the important part is it requires mana to deal with, which is still means the reach of DawN is reduced because you have to spend 2 mana to sap. But also, most importantly, I think, this misdirection is reapplied. DawN knows it's misdirection, but playing around it is much harder this turn because the previous turn that he did it, he could guarantee that he just daggers into a 1-1 and kills it off. Whereas this turn, well, if you dagger into a 5 attack minion, then you cry a little bit because you could just be dead on the backswing from Shaxy.
Yeah, if DawN doesn't Myra's now, I think he is guaranteed dead over 2 turns. The Myra's means that he will have to get some insane draws to be able to either answer this entire board or go for the lethal right now. Instead, DawN is going to play a bit for, I think, a half and half, remove the minions on board, even though you're expending your damage, just so you don't immediately die on the backswing. I'm not sure if he's done the math as to how much damage is maximized
It's
left in the deck.
reasonable.
Yeah, with the Leroy Step, it's quite a lot. It's just that I don't think he has the mana to go for it next turn. I mean, along with other things that could make this lethal, like the Life Drinker and SI, it just doesn't fit. So DawN has to do this over 2 turns, and he knows Shaxy has basically unlimited value. The burn of the second companion means there's no more chance for taunt though.
So with a lack of charge minions, there's effectively what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's 12 damage this turn?
Yeah, with the 1 fatigue.
So 13?
Doesn't get there.
Nope.
So I think Shaxy's best plan is to just load up with some minions. He could weave in the hero power, I think that's pretty relevant. He's seen double sap, so these wyverns are unlikely to get cleared.
He's going to forgo the hero power, and because the wyverns are unlikely to get cleared,
Sure,
it means
yeah.
that you make up that damage anyway by having being a 5 attack minion, so it's like a +3
Oh,
net.
and this does make the misdirection even more awkward. So yeah,
Yes.
it does seem more worth it to go for the double 5s than the Zul'jin hero power. Do you know what the hero power is called?
Axe toss.
I'm gonna trust you on that one.
It's probably not. I honestly guessed, but it sounds like what I think it should be called.
So I think DawN needs to discover an out here. Is he maybe just going for a survival plan?
Well, I think he has to heal, or he's just very, very dead all the time, right? I'm not sure what the follow-up is, though, because then if it's going to be this evolved, then he isn't Shadow Stepping.
Yeah, I think he's saving the Shadow Step for the Leroy, for the lethal. It seems like he was fishing for a taunt here, because he just does not have the time to both, well, to lethal Shaxy this turn, and Shaxy with the double 5/5 development did not give him time to swing the board back either.
And what these 1/1s do is the 1/1s actually at DawN played made the MD a little bit safer. But yes, this is frankly a lot of damage, and that means Shaxy's going to take the game number 1 with the Hunter.
Wow, and I thought this was strongly unfavored as well. And looking back at it, I wonder if DawN could have done something differently to guarantee the 2 procs on the Tog if he had stepped the Kobold and then gone face with the Waggle pick. Although I understand that it's a bit awkward because he's kind of negating all of his tempo and getting rid of his weapon. But it seemed like the hand was in a position where he just needed more stuff.
Yeah, and I think my question is, the Shadow Step on the Tog works out okay if you draw a Lackey, but the second you don't, well, he died with the Tog Waggle in his hand, of course, so it's a little bit scary for me. I think maybe he could have played a little bit more aggressively and just left the Tog down and tried to do something a little bit later on. But Shaxy continuing to do well here in this Hunter list, even though it looked like it got off to a bit of a rocky start, it's getting the job done in the end with a very, very timely Zul'jin. So Shaxy leads 1-0 versus DawN. Like I said, top of the table match going on here. Let's see who's going to stay at the top after this.
Welcome to Hearthstone Masters. Today, we're going to share one of the biggest changes coming to Hearthstone in 2019, an entirely new competitive format called Specialist. Specialist will be the default competitive format for Hearthstone Masters. From online Masters qualifiers to live Masters Tour events to the pinnacle of competition, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Ready to learn how the new Specialist format works? Let's dive right in. In this new competitive format, players select 3 30-card decks to bring to a Specialist tournament. The catch? All decks must be from the same class. In this regard, Specialist is a major departure from most other competitive formats. Amongst every player's 3 Specialist decks, 1 is designated as the primary deck. The player's other 2 decks are designated as secondary and tertiary decks. There are no special limitations placed on a player's primary deck aside from regular Hearthstone deck construction rules. However, a player's secondary and tertiary decks must share at least 25 cards in common with their primary deck. In other words, secondary and tertiary decks must mirror the primary deck with up to 5 cards swapped out. It is important to point out that duplicate cards count when comparing to a primary deck. For example, if you want to include 2 copies of Twilight Drake in your secondary deck, and there are no copies of Twilight Drake in your primary deck, then you must spend 2 swaps to include both cards. Unique or not, if a card isn't in your primary deck, it counts towards the 5-card difference limit. A player's primary deck is important for another reason. Whenever a new match starts, both its players must begin by piloting their primary deck. Only after the first game concludes can you choose to swap into your secondary or tertiary deck. You do not announce which of your decks you will be using in the next game, and you do not have to swap. After every game, this process repeats, allowing players to swap or stay until the match concludes. Importantly, you can swap to any of your decks between games, primary, secondary, or tertiary, including returning to your primary deck if you have previously swapped out of it. And those are all the rules for Specialist, Hearthstone's new official competitive format. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start brewing your own primary, secondary, and tertiary decks to get a jump start on the new format and innovate like the pros.
Let the battle begin!
Shaxy is currently leading 1-0 versus DawN, getting a win with that Hunter versus Rogue. And I said, because he's got a match tomorrow versus Tyler, which is going to be a Hunter mirror, getting a win against the Rogue here is going to be a huge deal for him. And he is moving on to his secondary deck, so we can check that out and see what changes Shaxy has gone for.
Yeah, he's gotten rid of the Direwolf Alpha and Rhinos and Headhunter's Hatchet in favor of things like Rat Trap and Vicious Gale Hide, which are great against Rogue. And the second Mark Shot, I'm not too sure how well Mark Shot lines up against Rogue, but it is just removal. And in this matchup, Hunter is playing control, absolutely. So they just need to have the consistent removal, and the Scale Hides for the healing can offset the free damage that the Rogue essentially gets from Waggle Pick. So definitely think the secondary is what he was meant to be on since the beginning. Although for Shaxy, he's in such a good position because he managed to get a win with the primary, which was in such an unfavored position.
It was, yeah. And just a quick one on Mark Shot. I think the value of this card is one, that the Discovering Spell is so valuable, but also it kills every single rogue minion, apart from Shark on the turn it's played, obviously, a big Van Cleave and Togwaggle, right? Every other minion dies, and I think most importantly, it even clears up a Miscreant, which in this matchup, because you are playing a lot of 1/1s and you know, small health minions, the Miscreant even sitting on the board is a frustration in itself, but now it's been nerfed to 4 health, it means it lines up perfectly into Mark Shot, and then after that, Life Drinker dies, Blink Fox dies, everything else just is insta-killed, and I think having to just at worst equal your opponent. So if there's a Hench Clan Burglar played and you Mark Shot, both players have spent 4 mana to discover a card. So it seems fair, and it stops Rogue running away with the game a little bit earlier. Yeah,
as long as Hunter can kind of go toe-to-toe with Rogue's mana sheet, then they're probably in a pretty good position, because Hunter just has so much value intrinsically these days, and with the Zul'jin, they can stabilize if they get to that point 100%. So as for DawN, I think he's sticking to the primary deck, which makes a whole lot of sense because his secondary is running Walk the Planks, which are for Mage. Although I don't think Hedge Clan Thug is a bad card against Hunter, I don't think it's worth running the Walk the Planks just to get those
answered by Mark Shot, which is kind of insane even with the weapon swing. But to give you a very quick outline is Shaxy won in the primary deck fight. Shaxy can change, or has changed, to a deck he deems better in the matchup, and DawN is using the same deck again. So Shaxy definitely on the better end of the stick, and not only because he is 1-0, but he's 1-0, and now you've got to say with a slight extra boost to his list, which is going to be pretty good here. In opening hand, he has that Hyena into a Animal Companion, and then double kill command means that he can play aggressive or play removal heavy, which is the flexibility of those kill commands. But DawN, on the other hand, does have the Shark now, and that was missing from his game earlier. And who knows, if he had a couple more Miscreants generated, that would have changed the game quite dramatically.
Man, an Edwin in this hand would have been insane just the turn 6. And I was already thinking, if you're Shaxy, do you just play the Hyena on too? Because you give a backstab activation. But again, this is a thing where, like, when you're on the play, the Rogue has the coin anyway. They can coin the Miscreant for activation anyway. So I feel like it's better to just make them have the answer instead of, like, giving them a backstab activation for Miscreant when they're off coin and they wouldn't otherwise have it. So
right, and very similar as well. There's SI7 agent can be coined to kill off the Hyena anyway. I think I think it's good because also, do you really want to pass with this hand? You have double kill command. If your opponent plays some minions, you can kill them off. And as you said, this means that DawN has to have an answer, or this is going to go from bad to worse because Shaxy has the Animal Companion follow-up.
Yeah.
And especially after seeing the backstab, I'll be shocked. Yep, there we go. Animal Companion, got the Misha.
So what do you think about hitting with the dagger to face her? I guess that indicates that DawN wants to go for the coin Waggle Pick at some point if he's expecting to have to answer something like Misha. But I feel like the hand did not necessarily necessitate the hit, because there's a world where Shaxy doesn't develop that turn, and then you just go for Blink Fox in that case, and then maybe your next turn is Shark instead of Waggle Pick. But I don't know how relevant that 1 damage to face is, but it did work out for DawN in this case.
Yeah, I do feel like with the way I've seen these rogues playing, every point of damage matters quite greatly, and if your opponent doesn't develop that turn, then you're kind of okay with losing the charge in response, I guess. And maybe it would have been a coin Shark instead with a different follow-up afterwards.
So DawN is playing the Blink Fox right now instead of the Shark, which makes me think that he is just going to use the Waggle Pick, because I feel like he wanted to go for, like, Shark into Blink Fox. I don't know if that's over turn 4 into turn 5. Oh, he's just going to Blink Fox now. Okay,
yeah,
so
I think one of the problems is DawN can't ever play Shark on its own, especially on curve, because Shaxy's running double Deadly Shot, and you can't pay 4 mana and effectively just pass your turn. DawN has to spend a little bit, but Shaxy would have to spend some mana to respond, of course, but it's always in Shaxy's favor. And we see the kill command now getting used. to clean up this board, and even these 1-1s, like I said, every point of damage matters on the Hunter, but the same is to be said on the Rogue player as well.
So the Toxmonger is the discovered spell for DawN. I got pretty excited seeing the double Shadow Step Shark and Blink Fox. I was like, wow, you can get 6 Hunter cards, and Hunter cards are pretty good.
It's probably too all in though, right? This is definitely not a bad shape of a minion to actually just fight off these little beasts.
It does very cleanly get eaten by the Unleash the Beast though, and DawN really looking for something proactive to do, but the hand is just not shaping up. One miscreant can change everything though.
And this is honestly my overall query with this version of Rogue is there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, but maybe even there's too much of it. There's double Shadow Step, there's double Shark, there's the Togwaggle, of course, at the bottom end. I feel like there's just, even Vendetta, there's a lot of cards that can get clogged in your hand, and I feel like we've seen that fairly often. And this is one of those moments, like DawN doesn't want all this crazy stuff. I think DawN just wants stuff to do, stuff to actually play out.
This is crazy how it happens. It might even be that the Hunter just smorks down the Rogue, and the way the matchup used to be, I thought things were different now,
Right.
Raven, where the Hunter had to play control, but just looking at the way Shaxy's hand is shaping up, which is just curving minions into Zul'jin, I feel like he's meant to be the aggressor now, and he's seen DawN taking these very passive turns, playing the discovered minion instead of his own minions, which means that he's willing to give up the activation for things like Vendetta. You probably have a read that DawN's hand is trash.
Yeah, and again, double Sap without consistent minion backup maybe isn't good enough. Because Sap buys you time and can gain you insane tempo, but DawN's never been in a spot where a minion is going to hit anyway. So the tempo you gain is there, but you can't actually apply pressure, which is maybe what's missing with these two Saps along with everything else in the list.
So with the Cable Rat pickup, DawN can finally get some value generation going.
It's rough though, like value versus taking 6 next turn. It's scary, right?
I feel like he may sap this turn. There's not a huge need to Shark this turn because just the one Lackey can get the Togwaggle on board, and that's at least
But
something
the Shark
to do.
sets up a double Togwaggle next turn,
Sure.
which is important.
Yeah.
I think DawN's taking a rough turn now to maybe get a way more powerful turn later. And even the Shadow Step usage now, I actually really like.
Yeah.
Cash in on the Shark right now, because we saw what happened last game when DawN took more of a risk in needing to draw lackeys. Now he has a million.
Yeah, and also this makes a lot of sense because if he got at least just one damage Lackey, it would have been able to clear the 5/5 if he stepped it.
Right.
So that's quite unfortunate for DawN here. Did you watch EU last night where I think Boston got 4 of the faceless Lackey? And wow, that's a shot.
Hammer's shot is pretty sick. I actually half watched and half fell asleep, if I'm completely honest. I had it on, but I often drift off. But this Hammer's shot is actually a pretty big problem.
I wonder if Shaxy just starts being aggressive here. The hand doesn't completely support it because he only has the kill command. The rest of these things don't charge, but he's also cut the rhinos from the list so they cannot get charged. So I do think he has to clear things. It probably involves Timberwolf to get the value trade. The Scale Hide into the Witchy Lackey also gains him some extra health.
Yeah, I think double Scale Hide and the kill command, I guess, isn't so bad. Oh, I guess if he's going to trade, I was wondering about pushing 6 with the Wyvern.
It's tempting, isn't it? But maybe Shaxy's thinking he's in such a good position control-wise. He's got the board, only 2 more turns to Zul'jin. Just needs to survive a bit longer.
Yeah, Zul'jin definitely makes his... Zul'jin definitely alters your play style, right? As soon as you have that in hand, you can play a slower game and play for that late game.
So even AoE like Betrayal here is pretty good for DawN,
Right.
but the contract, one of the choices is a Betrayal option, but the cheap shot, of course, just does that more consistently. So he can cheap shot thrice, and then use the Rush Lackey to clear everything but the Shimmer Fly, I believe.
Have to cheap shot that hyena first. It's only going to get bigger if you don't, so that's priority number 1. still, this rogue deck honestly is so weird to me. Maybe I just don't see it as well as other people, and that's almost certainly true, especially the rogue specialists out there. But I feel like it does a lot of stuff, but none of it feels that great. It's just a lot of bits of things. Whereas I think I would rather, even in a matchup that doesn't feel great, personally, I would rather still be the Hunter, because I feel like you do more consistent, just good things every turn.
Well, the rogue is going to do quite a lot of stuff with the double Tog discovers next turn.
Okay.
And DawN is just on this plan of hoping that Shaxy doesn't have Zul'jin on curve, because barring Master's Call or Zul'jin, he's kind of gotten to this state where the Hunter is not developing that much. You've maybe stranded removal cards in their hand, and now you have this time to go for the Tog value.
I think Shaxy plays Deadly Shot, right?
Just to load up the Zul'jin.
I think so, because you've seen, he's not going to go for it, and it's not, I'm not saying it's wrong at all, but because you've seen Shadow Step on the Shark, you have to expect a lot of stuff to happen next turn, and you might have to be forced into Zul'jin, which means an extra minion just 100% dead is pretty useful.
Yeah, so this is a pretty sick turn, can get the double Tog activations, and also evolve the Tog into an 8-drop. Push the 1, and that's a board that doesn't get answered by the single Deadly Shot. So, are you liking Wand and Crown? That's usually the duo that just gets there.
It's going to be double Crown?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, Hunter doesn't have an answer, right? If you play 4, what you
True.
hope is like beefy minions, then it's not so bad. There's Unleash, and
Yeah,
also, that's a pretty big deal as well, the Deranged Doctor. If
Yeah.
it does die, then DawN heals for 8, and 8 is a very large number right now.
8 is a large number on any day, as far as I'm concerned.
Tell that to some warriors who have been tanking up for a while. 8 is nothing. It's a mere percentage.
So Shaxy is going to go for the removal plan. I think he can get rid of everything
Yes.
if he uses the Scale Height 2. Oh, there's not enough mana.
No, he can get rid of everything, right?
Well,
he can trade, Wing Blast, Kill Command, and then Deadly Shot.
oh, yes, yeah. And then...
So he Deadly Shots the 0/3 Shark. And I think you do.
Yeah.
Because that also just puts a lot of stuff in the tank for Zul'jin next turn. Wait,
Ooh.
he's just going for it. He decided he's not taking 29 next turn, and he's not giving DawN a way to actually kill off the Deranged Doctor. Okay, I'm not arguing too much. This is an aggressive play I like.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, because seeing DawN take 2 Tog spells, if that's double Crown, your Zul'jin is only clearing 1 of those. And then the next one is immediately a problem as well.
The problem is the Shark. Like, the Shark makes silly things happen fairly often.
Yeah, Life Drinker, heals 6.
Yeah.
It's also just a Fireball.
Most importantly, just have a heal, right? Just gonna see what's in the crown number 1.
Probably looking for some taunts.
Malikos. I want to see that. He's
It's
not
a
gonna
thick
go
shiv.
for it. Ooh, yeah, I just want to see him shiv.
This is very strange how this works out, because like it's so expensive for DawN to clear all of the hounds, but any hound could represent lethal at this point.
Right.
And he has created this board where he's just saying second unleash is not a thing.
This guy's toast.
I mean, if it's there, he just loses, so...
And he's also seen 1 kill command already, so he's going to trade away
Yeah.
some of the dogs. And this is basically setting up lethal. There's double deadly shot,
He said-
but it doesn't matter, right?
DawN set up the counter lethal, and the Zul'jin, I don't think, has enough stuff in there. It's got Unleash the Beasts. It's not got any deadly shots, right? It's got a couple marked shot, or 1 marked shot.
I think it's got 1 mark shot.
So if you are the god of deadly shots and remove both the
Wait.
Gruels,
Wait, Shaxy actually has to go for the Zul'jin, right? Because there's kill command.
it
What
can
are
go...
the damage is there? If everything goes phase. Okay, well, Okay,
Wow,
it went
the wrong
face.
face.
Yeah, it went face. Oh yeah, those 2 kill commands.
Yeah.
I think he had to go for
Yeah,
this.
I do think so too. The double deadly just never gets there. And yeah, I think DawN's gonna take this game.
9 damage. So if one of the kill commands hit face, it was actually lethal. That's so crazy.
Oh my goodness.
If one of the kill commands hit face, it was lethal.
You're right.
And I think it would have been the same unless that animal comp was Misha. Because Leok would have given more damage than the Huffer, actually. So there is only 19. Sorry, 20. Oh, 21 with the dagger. So he isn't actually
lethal.
dead on board.
Yeah.
But he hits dead to that SI7 agent, especially because the double damage.
Yeah.
And also the Shiv helps him just dig.
And that's why you saw Shaxy not trade off the Huffer into the SI, even though it removes more damage. He sees that he's not dead on board, so instead he's trying to give himself an out of Second Unleash off the top or something like that by pushing the extra damage. And that is quite a big relief for DawN. And he's now evened up the series 1-1.
Yeah, it's kind of funny as well because one of the kill commands also took his own 5 armor. So maybe, obviously the Life Drinker would have changed stuff because the Shiv into Life Drinker into SI would have been fine. But maybe there would have been a way where the kill commands just go, one kill command going the right way could have actually just stole that win for Shaxy. But that was still another very, very close game. And it's coming down to game number 3. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to find out who wins.
What's up, Hearthstone fans, and welcome to the second episode of The Curve, where we draw the biggest headlines from this past weekend on Curve. I'm your host, Derek Brown. Let's do this. Flurry and DawN continued their dominance in Asia Pacific, finishing with a perfect 4-0 match record. That brings Cloud9's overall record to 10-2, best among all teams with 2 or more members, despite teammate Kalento's 2 losses in the European region. The group will look to stay on top heading into Week 3. Psycho's impressive run to start the season continued in Grandmasters Europe, as he defeated both Yala and Swids to improve to a 4-0 record overall. Even better, he now sits at a perfect 8-0 game record. He'll look to keep his win streak alive next week as he takes on the world champion, Hunter Ace. Despite the nerfs to Rogue this past week, 2 Brave Americas players, Monsanto and Strifecrow, decided to bring the class anyway. Their risk paid off though, as both players went 2-0 this past weekend. Monsanto leads the entire Americas region with a dominant 4-0 match record, while Strifecrow sits in second place in the A division with a 3-1 record. With all of the Hearthstone Grandmasters being front and center, let's not forget to check in with our friends in China. This year, China is running 2 tournaments that will lead into playoffs and then the World Championship later this year. We'll keep you posted on the Gold Open and the Gold Team Championship. In this week's Meta Moment, we continue to highlight the Mage. After a warrior-infested Week 1, Mage came out to dominate Week 2. Of the 48 matches played across all regions, 42 of those matches contained a Mage. Outside of mirror matches, the Mage class only had a 50% win rate, and yet it's still the talk of the town as one of the best decks. We'll continue to see if the deck can sustain its popularity and find out if it truly is one of the most dominant classes in this meta. If you missed any of the Grandmasters action, you can check out the VODs on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Hearthstone Esports. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as Grandmasters resumes this weekend. That's it for us. We'll see you in the tavern.
It's all coming down to game number 3 here between Shaxy and DawN and the Hunter versus Rogue matchup. Both players have stuck to the same decks they played in the previous game, so that's DawN on his primary and Shaxy on his secondary. So he's going to see if he can do it again. And I guess we've got to look at the difference of maybe drawing a Rat Trap would have made as well. Just having one beefy minion to push a bit more damage might have helped Shaxy just a little bit.
Yeah, reviewing the series so far, I did think DawN was very favored going into it, but it's kind of funny how the Burgle Rogue actually lines up against that sideboard of Rat Trap when they're not actually running preparation.
Right.
And so it's harder for them to do the three cards in a turn thing, although it is still relatively easy compared to other classes because it is Rogue.
Yeah,
But
and
we
like,
see-
and when you double generate in lackeys, for example, it does help reduce him down a little bit.
Yeah.
Ooh, backstab and Van Cleef for DawN, an age-old combo. But the Shaxy does have that rat trap, so much so he was just sat hovering over it.
It is a very good hand for DawN because he gets the Blink Fox on curve, which activates Vendetta. He can just curve straight away into the Waggle Pick, and he will be aware that this is Rat Trap because there are no other secrets in the secondary deck.
Hey, multi-shot not too shabby actually in terms of removal. Hunter often just puts 2 to 3 minions on the board, so being able to pretty consistently just clear 2 for 4 mana is pretty reasonable, especially because it procs Vendetta as well, means that DawN actually has removal for days.
Speaking of removal, does Shaxy need to go for the coin bark shot here already? There's another way of removing while saving the coin, which is the double Spring Pause and the Timberwolf. but
Oh,
that
that's a
seems-
lot of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
it seems very expensive. So I do like the coin mark shot. This is a very difficult pick. With the Zul'jin in hand, I don't hate the Frenzy.
Yeah, Frenzy's not too bad at all, actually. I think the other two, the Flair's 2-mana drawer card, I don't think Shaxy really needs that. He just wants to, he'll just use Master's Call a little bit later. But the Die Frenzy as well, because you have stuff to do in the next couple of turns. And then even if it's turn 6 Vicious Scale High Dire Frenzy, that is a very solid turn in itself. And against Rogue especially, it can help combat some of this pressure that he's going to start feeling very soon.
DawN preloading this Waggle Pick there. I think he might be proccing the Rat Trap next turn, and if he does, he has a pretty easy answer for it with the Backstab Vendetta.
What a few times a class can actually just deal with Rat Trap pretty easily. It's crazy.
Well, he doesn't necessarily have to. It's like if you want the Big Edwin, you need to proc the Rat Trap. And the Big Edwin is better the earlier on because of the deadly shots being less likely to be in hand already.
This guy's toast.
Instead though, DawN's just going to hold on and just say, you know what? I'm putting a Waggle Pick into a 1-1.
Yeah.
Let's go. I think he actually had to do that as well.
To deny the Frenzy.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
So doing that trade really is telling, I think, of how DawN thinks the matchup plays out. And because he's not on the Tempo Rogue, he's not on the double pick, double deadly poison plan, I think he's trying to go toe-to-toe for value, at least in the mid-game. I don't think the Rogue can beat the Hunter in the late game just because of how insane Zul'jin is, but I think DawN is investing that extra Waggle Pick damage into clearing minions so he can create a very strong board position in this mid-game. He now has the Shark.
Yeah, the more I see of this Rogue style, the more I just think it tries to do one very, very good turn, and that one good turn wins the game, even if it's not that turn it happens, but say the value you gain from a big shark turn, for example, and that's enough to generate the value to win the game. Whereas Hunter can just keep on going.
DawN can take it super slow and just go for like the multi-shot this turn and try to go for a Shark Edwin play next turn, but that necessitates your opponent playing things so you can use your backstabs and vendettas. So he may be going for the Edwin just now. And
Just gonna shark and then replay SI. I wouldn't hate it.
sure, and that still keeps the Rat Trap intact.
There you go. This does a couple of things as well. It means that the shark isn't just dead to a deadly shot. Oh, is he gonna hold?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. He's letting the Spirit of the Shark be dead to a deadly shot if Shaxy wants, and if he has it, of course. I thought he was going to play the SI just because it deals 4 damage, but it wouldn't proc the trap because he bounced the SI with his weapon and not a card.
I think I would have liked to have seen that too, and DawN seems very upset by the created by, but obviously that was a possibility of naturally being in the hand.
Right, he runs 2 of anyway. The funny thing is that the interaction between 9 lives and Shimmerfly, of Shimmerfly giving you a 9 lives, and then creating a Shimmerfly and generating a spell, it's actually pretty sick.
Infinite value. So now he gets the Scale Hide Frenzy,
Yeah.
which is the premier answer of Hunter in this matchup. He's just got Zul'jin waiting in hand as well, so I think Shaxy should feel in a very comfortable position playing the control.
Yeah, he's really just missing Master's Call to really secure the game, I think. Because if you can get Master's Call down before Zul'jin and you've already used Dire Frenzy, well, your hand, at worst, you put stuff on the board and your hand's good. Like, at worst, after a Zul'jin. It's so consistent.
So DawN, having seen that the created by Deadly Shot was used, which means generally players would play their natural Deadly Shot over a created one, so I was saying he could go for an Edwin this turn, and I would have wanted to see him go in with things like Backstab, Vendetta, use the SI, create a huge board, and then you put the Hunter on having answers for both the huge board and the Edwin.
Could you have cleared through Rat Trap?
There may have been a way. But are you so scared of a 6-6 when you're generating something like a 10-10?
Maybe if it means the 6-6 plus a kill command just wipes out the Van Cleef anyway.
Sure.
It's a lot of damage, and if you've popped the 6-6, you can't kill it, and that ends up just killing the Cleef regardless. It's just a lot of time and resources put in. I do wonder when DawN's going to go with this Cleef, though, because he's definitely had opportunity to for a long time.
You could have cleared it with Backstab Vendetta, but the problem is you have to proc it before you do that.
Right, exactly.
So I would have to go back and look at that turn. But yeah, Shaxy taking pretty simple development play. Give something for DawN to deal with. Next turn, hopefully top deck something and get something off the Shimmerfly to stall, and then just slam the Zul'jin. And it seems like it could work out for him. But again, DawN has the opportunity to go for a massive Edwin. And pretty sure he can clear the Rat as well if he rushes SI.
He can anyway. Oh no, he's 1 mana off doing it that way.
Well, now he can go Vendetta Edwin, although... Oh, yeah, this still works with the SI.
But this is everything in. And it means that this... I feel like DawN's just gone, okay, here's my turn. If you beat it, you beat it. But if you don't, I win. It's very much just an all-in here. And this Shimmerfly spell could be huge.
That was a very complex turn from DawN, actually. I wonder if there's a way he could have gone about it by, like, SIing on one of those minions he daggered down and then rushing the SI, because that kind of saves more stuff in hand, although not sure if it matters. Oh my gosh, the 1-4. Can't look for it. Okay.
Wait, should he have not... Should he have traded something else? I guess no, it doesn't matter, right? It removes the most damage off the board the most consistently.
So how do you feel about just ripping Leroy now, just so you get Miscreant activation? I don't think you care about those 1/1s very much. In fact, they can die to your Miscreant and the dagger.
Yeah, the only problem is he doesn't know what this secret is. If it's explosive... Oh, sorry, he knows it's not explosive. Yeah. Sorry, he did check for that. I'm being silly. So he knows it's not explosive, he knows it's not freezing. So now I would be very afraid of Snipe. He's going to get it though. So there's the Snipe on the Leroy. Doesn't mean the Miscreant is activated though. But it also means that the follow-up from Shaxy is going to be pretty decent too. And there's 2 deadly shots in the pool. Oh, it's so scary.
It would be sick if you could attack with your Unleashes mid-Zul'jin turn and then the deadly shot always hits the Edwin.
That wouldn't be powerful at all.
That's the thing that gives your opponent coins, right?
Yes, when it attacks. Soldier of Fortune. Well, there's not much else to do here in this game. Shaxy has to play the Zul'jin, and then let's just see where those deadly shots land. The secrets are cool, but not if it's dead. Oh.
No way!
Oh, wow.
Oh my
Even a hopper for fun. And I don't know how DawN deals this 16 damage anymore.
That's wild. As Lunara says.
Oh my.
Okay, he actually has 12 on board. Could have cleared the Edwin anyway, but obviously that's terrible because all these other minions survive. And now DawN...
Oh, he even gets an explosive trap, which really just isn't bad because all the stuff left in DawN's deck apart from Togwaggle is small anyway.
Yeah.
So even if DawN just makes the most like craziest comeback here, which the snipe kills off this life drinker, the explosive trap deals with anything afterwards if there's any more lackey generation knocking around.
I feel like DawN
Yeah.
was on the Myras for this turn or bust.
Or
And-
the not Zul'jin.
Sure. Or the Zul'jin not hitting the deadly perfect onto the Edwin.
And I'll just remind everyone, both of these players at this second in time are 4-0 in Grandmasters in the same division, of course. But it looks like for me, Shaxy is going to go 5-0 and DawN is going to go to 4-1 because I cannot see it unless exactly Myra's is drawn next turn. So there is a chance. I'm talking as if it's over. It's definitely not quite over yet. It's definitely a rough position for DawN though. Needs to be exactly Myra's into some good stuff.
Yeah, and he's used a bunch of bursts. He's used the Leroy. That did not look like Myra. Oh, wait. I stand corrected.
Exactly Myra's. Wow. Ziliak's not bad. Sap's okay. Wow, okay.
Okay, he knows this is Rat Trap though,
Yeah,
so
which is fine.
playing 2 more cards means it get. Well, he can immediately sap it, so that's quite good.
So we can backstab, sap, or he could just backstab Evis the Misha
I
and sap
definitely
the...
like holding the Abyss. I kind of want to
Okay,
Blink
okay.
Fox Vendetta. He can still backstab the Huffer. He can still fit in the sap for the 6/6 as well, and you develop a 3/3. And he has a Lackey
Oh.
Generator. Wow. Gladiator's Longbow. I've not seen that card in
Okay.
forever.
The sap onto the rat makes sense. The Vendetta for the Misha now.
Mhm.
And I think we're saying there's a chance. There's even, funnily enough, the Ziliak Shadow Step Ziliak's play,
Yeah,
which
can
means that you
stabilize.
can heal for a while and kill some minions. What? I did say, before everyone jumps at me, that there was a chance if this card was exactly Myra's into good stuff, and this was Myra's into good stuff.
Absolutely. Shaxy did have this buffed Scale Hide, which means DawN is not just going to get there with the burst, but looks like his hand, it was a little bit short anyway with just the longbow and the eviscerate, but yeah, now DawN has this opportunity to maybe play for some type of Togwaggle. Maybe not this turn though, because the 6/6 represents too much of a problem.
Bite, that's extra damage. It's gonna work out how not to die though.
The bite is also armor. And yeah, Ziliak lines up super nicely to both kill Scale Height and make sure it doesn't get extra healing because of the Divine Shield. And yeah, the bite Evis is just 8, 9 with the dagger. If he had coin for the Gladiator's Longbow as well, that's just insane. Ooh, second Scale Height was the draw.
Wow, and it's so clutch as well, being able to just hero power down the Ziliax. It means it literally does half of what it normally gets done in terms of the heals. And now I do think it was insane from DawN that he's even still alive, to be completely honest. But it does look like, especially with that Scale Hide, it's too much damage. It's too much health from Shaxy for DawN to actually power through here.
Is there a way if he discovers like the damage Lackey, just to survive into the next turn, I mean?
But now there's a rat,
yeah,
number
that's
2.
just never getting there.
Well,
Is there anything he
Wow.
can evolve into? Not gonna bother to
I
find
don't
out.
think so.
Yeah.
Not with 2 rats on board that you can't deal with. So super close series overall. But Shaxy takes what a lot of people would say is an unfavored matchup of Hunter versus Rogue and takes a win to go 5-0 in Grandmasters so far. An insane record that I think only a couple of players have at the moment. I think Fino is also almost is flawless so far. It's absolutely insane. DawN is now 4-1, so he's still rocking at that top end of the leaderboard, but still taking the loss there versus a matchup you probably were okay with. Has to feel a little bit rough. That's only match number 1. We've got tons more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with some more Grandmasters.